Hello, I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex. Welcome to the Commander's Journey.
The place where we discuss our favorite format of Magic, Commander, from the perspective of a new player
and an experienced one.
This journey is for new Magic players who are interested in Commander. Today is a big day. We just have to dive right in.
It's spoiler season.
And you know what that means.
They broke our format.
Theros Beyond Broken. Wait, no, Theros Beyond Death. I can't decide what to call the set. But dude, we've just been for the last few weeks just been texting each other back and forth, looking at every spoiler card as it comes out, just getting excited and scratching our head, I think, just about every other day.
I think they've given us something Commander playable almost every day. Not quite, but I think really just shy of it. I mean, it's kind of crazy how good the stuff coming out has been.
I'm sure everybody's been talking about all these different cards and in all the different formats. There's obviously a ton of stuff, but we're going to focus on Commander, and we're going to focus on our top 5 favorite things each. We came up with separately our top 5.
And we cheat a little bit on this one. We kind of overlapped at the last second.
Yeah, well, that was today though.
No, at the last second. We kind of came up with ones we like, just so everyone knows. And then me and Joel were like, okay, well, we have some overlap here. There's some things we'd like to get to anyways. Yeah. Let's figure that out.
So I think we just ended up compromising, trading, and saying, hey, let's add these ones and look at these. But there's so many good ones. It was really hard to narrow it down to our top 5. So we really tried to focus on just the top 5 best, but also just what are the top 5 for Commander.
I remember texting you, Joel. I finally got it down to 13. I was so proud of myself. I started 20
it was
something.
I have 27. I'm like, yeah, me too, man.
I'm so proud when I got down to 13.
But let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Nyx Ancient is obviously the best and the brokenest card in this deck.
Yeah, I think
it's this the most broken card.
We're all we saw this and looked at it like, why?
Yeah. So Nyx Ancient is 4 green for an enchantment creature elemental 5/5. It has trample, and it says if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. Wait, if you tap a permanent, so does that make your Soul Ring 6 colorless mana?
Yes. That's the most tame part. It's a 5/5. That's the most tame part of the card. A lot of things might bust your form. This is the first card, by the way, in the history, and I've been playing Commander as a terribly long period of time, but it's the first card that I've literally thought when it came out, this is going to be banned. And I don't think it'll happen fast because the ban list, they're not very fast for the Commander guys. The council, they're not. It'll take a little bit. I'm guessing in 2 or 3 years it'll be banned.
Yeah, because we allow usually a lot of very powerful cards in our format,
and people keep on trying to justify this to me, like, oh, in this scenario or with this card, it's worse, or if the stars align. Yeah, I get it. Like, there are scenarios. The problem is this is easily obtainable. It just got printed. All the new Commander players are going to have a copy of this. One thing, if it's an old card that does it. When you're dealing with a newer card that everyone has access to, I cannot come up with a reason why you wouldn't throw this in Evergreen deck. Seriously.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, yeah, it does cost 7 mana to get out, but once it's out, I mean, it's just nuts. If you just had 8 mana and you spent 7 mana, that 1 mana turns into 3.
The biggest joke I've heard about this card, a buddy of mine told me it. He literally pointed out that, and this won't, of course, work in Commander, but like in Standard or whatever, once you have the first one out, it pays for the other 3. Because once you have 7 mana and you can pay to king it out, then everything that guy for that 7 mana will tap for an additional, 2, which point you can get out the other 3 you have in your hand.
That is insane.
Doesn't play a Commander, but it's scary.
Whoa, yeah, not for Commander, but for other formats. Jeez, this card's insane. It's broken. And so how long do you think it'll take before they ban this card?
2 or 3 years. That's what I think it'll be. I think it'll be the summer of 2022 would be my guess. Shot in the dark.
Shot in the dark. Well, either way, I think we both agree that this is just such an overpowering card. Eventually, I think it will be banned.
I've seen them do a lot of powerful cards before. I've never thought to myself when card came up the same way that this did, I think this is going to be banned. That's our That's that's our intense take from the Commander's journey. At some point in the future,
starting off hard. It's such a fun game, but you see these cards and you just got to think to yourself, could it not? I mean, because there's some combo cards that are insane, but this card by itself in any green deck is going to
triples your mana,
triple power you. It's nuts. So anyway, that's not part of our top 5. We just both
we
thought it was one of the
way.
best. Get it out of the way.
We both would have slapped it at number 1. It's kind of like, I didn't get the chance to say it during the last time we did, but Arcane Signet, we kind of thought the same way about, where it would have been high on both our lists, so we just kind of put it to the side. The same thing with the Nix Ancient.
Yeah.
It's too powerful. We're just not going to look at it.
I think it's pretty obvious. A lot of people,
it's
talking about it. It's pretty obvious how powerful it is. Not a mystery. But we're going to get our top 5, and we're each going to pick a sleeper card we think is kind of flying below the radar that's going to have a lot of impact in our format and just in Magic in general. But so let's start with our top 5. So you want to start us off, Alex?
Yes. So we're going to start with the card that is something I really appreciate. I kind of like what it's doing. It's Heleons Intervention. It's X, white and white for an instant. Choose 1. Destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. Now, I'm never going to cast the second thing. I'm only ever going to cast the first one.
Yes.
But that is pretty good. I think, the card I want to compare it to the most is... God, why am I spacing the card? we had it just a second ago. Why am I...
We didn't put it on here?
No, we didn't put it on here because I didn't think that far ahead.
Oh,
anyways.
Something to dust?
Yes, Return to Dust.
Return to Dust, yeah.
God, I'm sorry. I should know that off the top of my head. I really thought I would, honestly. But yes, Return to Dust is what I'm thinking in my head. And now Return to Dust exiles it, which of course gets around certain things that this doesn't. I think that's really is a key thing there. So I think there's still a play,
and you can exile, I think, up
of
to
what
2
you
things
want.
On that.
Yes, exactly. So what Return to Dust basically it's an instant for 4, 2 generic and 2 white. To play it, but you can play it instant speed to just remove an artifact or enchantment, or if you play it during your main phase, you can remove 2 things.
And it exiles
them specifically. Perfect. This is a lot like that, but instead, for each additional mana you pay, you can take out an additional artifact or enchantment. Now, it just destroys but doesn't exile. That's where the give and take is there, but, really, this gets better as it goes higher and higher, and you can take out multiple things. You can make into an impromptu board wipe. You have the flexibility. Yeah,
flexibility is very important in Commander, but also this set in general is extremely enchantment heavy. So the fact that you can take out enchantments.
And for that one player that's building the life gain deck, I mean, you have some variety in it.
Yeah, target player gains twice X life. Yeah, if you're going to happily ever after on something, right? Or do some shenanigans with your life, or you just need the life. Yeah, I mean, you could be down to, that happens in games too, where you find yourself behind the ball real quick.
Okay, we just came up with a solution for why you'd want the second ability, because I'm only looking at the first, and I think the first is great.
The first is great, but the fact you can use the second one, I mean, I found games where it's like I'm 4 or 5 game turns in and I'm down to like 8, 9, 10 life, and in Commander that's pretty low. And you could just, if you have this in your hand and you have enough mana, you can recover pretty quickly.
Because I'm pretty happy with most of the intervention cycle, but this one's just the one that, especially in Commander, I can see me going with.
It is nuts. Okay, so that was your number 5. Now I got to scroll through here. I got to find my number 5. My number 5 card is Shadow Spear. For 1 generic mana, it's a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink. For 1, permanents, you can pay 1, and permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, and you equip for 2. I'm just like, I'm reminded of a game I played on Commander Night where somebody pulled out a card that made all of his cards indestructible. And it was like everybody's spending the next 2 or 3 turns trying to find board wipes, trying to find exile, trying to find ways to get around this guy because his board just kept growing. And this card is just so good, in my opinion. For 1 mana, you put this thing out, you equip it to something. Here's a question I have for you as a new player. I'm looking at this, I'm like, yeah, you can equip it, but if you don't equip it, can you still use that effect right there?
Yes.
So you don't even have to equip it, and you can use the effect, which I think is the most powerful part of this card, where you pay 1. You don't have to tap it either. You just pay 1, Permanents your opponents control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And you can use that as a political move. You can use it on somebody else's turn who's swinging in on somebody else who's got indestructible. I just think it's an extremely powerful artifact.
Very powerful card. I was really scared when you were about to ask me, hey, Alex, I just come up with this crazy scenario that I would tell you about. And then I'm like, crap, I got to really rack my brain.
I don't have any scenarios.
You do all the time. Joel has these scenarios all the time. What if I did this? And I'm like, okay, well, I think I need a judge at this point. Thought you were going to give me one of those.
Am I like that annoying 6-year-old kid?
No, it's not annoying. I mean, it's good. It's well thought out. I mean, that's how you build great decks. But
why does this do? Why?
I get nervous when you ask me on the podcast, Joel.
That's all right. We're just exploring this game just like anybody. And I think, especially for new players, like there's so many different depths and levels. You wanna have answers for people.
There is an organicness to when you're reading the card. Go, hey, Alex, does this work? And I'm never going to stifle that. That's my goal. I still want you to ask me on the podcast every time. I want that to be clear. It's just, I get scared.
Don't be scared. Don't be frightened.
Let's jump to
Although that picture is pretty frightening.
It is a scary spear. Very, very
this
shadowy.
This next picture is even more frightening.
Yes, it is.
That is scary.
So my number 4 is Eat to Extinction. 3 and a black for an instant that says exile target creature or planeswalker. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. So what I liked about this card very specifically, we just talked about the best budget single target black removal spells. Mm-hmm. And Vraska's Contempt was our number 1 spoiler. I guess I should have said that before I said that. Oh, well, too late now. But that one is 2 black for an instant. You gain 2 life for a similar effect. This one pretty much has a scry variant on the top of it. Plus, it's slightly easier to cast, being just 3 generic and a black versus 2 and black. So it's a slight upgrade in my opinion. I think the scry is relevant, especially in black, because you can put it in the graveyard. And honestly, I wouldn't mind having both in my deck. We recommend 5 single target removal spells. These both can cover it just right then and there. I mean, I think they're great picks.
And exile is so important, especially with this new set and everybody running these different gods, these different cards. Being able to exile something is important because they're just going to put things in their graveyard and then use that for all those new effects they got out now.
The more gods they print, the better exile.
The more they're going to escape. All right. So that brings us to my number 4. It's kind of an obvious. Some people, and I think in certain formats, this might be the number 1 card. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit lower on the list, but is definitely one of the top cards because of how powerful and the different combos that you can do with it. And it's Healy Odd, Suncrowned. It's 2 and a white for a legendary enchantment creature god. He's indestructible, and as long as your devotion to white is less than 5, Healy Odd isn't a creature. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. And for 1 and a white, another target creature gains lifelink until end of turn. And it's a 5/5. Now, if you've been anywhere in the Magic World online, I'm sure you've been reading up on the major combo that you can do with Healy Odd, which is if you utilize Healy Odd Suncrown and Walking Ballista, which is XX for an artifact creature construct, where Walking Ballista enters the battlefield with +1/+1 counters on it. For 4, you put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Now, for newer players, it was hard for me. Like, I had to read up how this actually works. And you have to pay the 4 to get in there with the counters on it. But then as soon as you remove a counter from Walking Ballista, it's doing a damage to a target. But because of Healy Odd Suncrowned, you make Walking Ballista have lifelink. So when it does that damage, you're gaining that life. And then whenever you gain that life, you put the counter, you can put because of Healy Odd, you can put a +1/+1 counter back onto Ballista. And then you can remove another counter from Ballista. You can just ping. You can kill the whole board. It is insane. And there was another honorable mention of Walking Ballista is about like $35 right now as we're talking. It might go up in price, but if you really like that combo and or you're going to run it, you can also look at another artifact called Triskelion, and it's 6 generic for artifact creature construct. Has very similar verbiage It says Triskelion enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Triskelion. Triskelion deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So you can do pretty much the same thing. It's a 1/1, and you can do pretty much the same thing with this card as well. But yeah, I feel like I said a ton of things, but just to explain that combo. But Healy Odd, Suncrowned, all the gods are really good in this set. But because of that combination, a lot of formats are going to be seeing this card take over.
You're watching it live, folks. Joel's discovering combo decks.
I don't have a lot of combos.
No, you don't. We don't play a lot
decks.
of combo in our group in general. But I think
that
we
might
have
be
found
why
one
it's a
for
little
Joel.
lower on my top chart.
Yeah.
But it's really good. It's really good.
If it's what you want to do it, man. You know, it's. I think too. What's scary to me too is not to mention not only is that a very powerful combo, you're just going to destroy the whole board, but also I remember when Walking Ballista was like I want to say like $6, $7.
Mm-hmm.
People are like about the card like it was seeing standard play. Now we could be looking at it as a commander card. That's a little scary. I'm curious to see how that'll play out.
I want to go look at I want to go back to MTG Goldfish and look at the history and like when did it uptick? Because I just looked at it today and it was like $36.
I'm sure it updated partially because I think it's been good before that, but
yeah,
I think relation. But sometimes I overdo it in my head.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Healy Odd Suncrown, excellent card.
Okay,
excellent card.
On to number 3. My number 3 is another god, in fact. I thought we should get some gods in here. Let's do it.
Since it is a god deck.
It is, a god set. It's enchantments. It's gods. It's Nylea Keen-Eyed. It's 3 and a green for a legendary enchantment creature god. Indestructible as long as your devotion is green is less than 5. Nylea isn't a creature. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. For 2 and a green, reveal the top cards of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your library. It's a 5/6.
No, into your graveyard.
Or into your graveyard. I'm sorry. Thank you. Wow, that's better though than I was originally assuming. Glad you caught that because, I always look at there's the example of the god test now, which to me is how good is the god if it's not an indestructible creature, right? It's how powerful they are. And I think all the gods are always underestimated whenever they come out. And they're always kind of a little broken. They might not be as broken as others, but they're all pretty powerful.
Which I think is flavorful because they're gods, right?
I mean, it makes sense. They're indestructible. You can't really deal with them. But I like at worst, Nylea's a 3 and a green. All creature spells cost 1 less to cast. And then for 2 and a green, I can help, search through the beginning of my library. 4 creature cards, and then potentially put things in my graveyard if that ends up being relevant to my deck. It seems powerful to me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of graveyard love and hate in this set in general. So yeah, that's one added little piece of value.
Let's throw that in there. If you're building one of these commanders with escape, you can use Nylea, throw some stuff in the graveyard, and use that to help escape out. Boom, that's synergy right there.
Exactly.
And again. I really like to. I think both Nylea and Healy Odd were slightly better than their last counterparts, knock on wood. And then I think the other 3 are slightly weaker. Perforos, Erebos, and Thassa. I think Thassa may be close, and I may be underestimating Thassa, but if I remember right, we all did that last time too. Not just the Commander community, but the general Magic community. So let's see what happens.
Well, I wasn't around during the release of the last gods. So
I was coming.
These are all great gods to me.
For me, that was when I really got in. I used to kind of play Magic more casually back then. That was the first time I really was doing an in-depth, what's going to happen in the new set kind of thing.
All right, my number 3. Moving on to a card that's not a god, not an artifact, not a creature, not an enchantment, but lo and behold,
it's enchantment.
What is it? It's not an instant, but an enchantment - Saga. We got Sagas back. Woohoo! So this Saga is Kiora bests the sea god for 5 a blue and a blue. So the way Saga works is it enters. Of course, this thing's in the way. I can't even read it.
It enters the
as the Saga enters, and after you draw your draw step, you add a lore counter, and then you sacrifice after the third thing, after number 3.
Yeah, and for some ones that have 4, it's after 4 and 30 how big they go. Yeah.
So for new players, the is listed there 1, 2, 3. So on when you play it that first turn, that first effect happens. When it comes back around, you use second effect and then third. So it's not as great in Commander because it takes longer to get to all those. You know, in a quicker format, it might be better. But this is just a powerful card. It's just great no matter what. So the number 1 on the Saga is create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof.
And unless it gets countered, that's what's going to happen. That's your minimum.
Wait, 5, 6, 7. It's a hexproof 8/8. Like it's already powerful. And 2, this thing's insane. Tap all non-land permanents target opponent controls. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step.
So you kill another player is its second ability.
You win. Yeah, you beat out one player in Commander. So
that person, everything's tapped. They can't untap everything.
Yeah, either your opponent, your another opponent, or yourself that comes around to you. You're going to have the chance to swing in at that person, knock them out. And then the third one's incredible too. You gain control of target permanent and opponent controls, and you untap it. So it doesn't matter if they were. You just take the most powerful thing on the board for yourself.
You are just laying on the table. You minimum make an 8/8 hexproof for 7, which
I don't know.
Is great.
Maybe this should have been my number 2 or 1. I mean, now that the more I look at this card, it's
pretty
so
much
good.
Its second one, which is the biggest thing for me, kills a player pretty much outright. It flat out. I mean, you get to 2 there, it's going to take out an opposing player. You know, I mean, at the very least, they're gonna. If your group's nice, they'll leave them close to death, kind of thing. It'll be one of those things, and then just to rub salt in the wound for 3, steal something. I mean, that's the weakest ability on this thing.
I'm curious how the politics will go on this, because think about it, like
the politics are going to be insane.
If I play this card and then I put out an 8/8 crack and I have a decent board state, and everybody at the table has got a decent board state, and I drop this, but there's like I haven't been the archenemy number 1 for that game, but there's an obvious archenemy number 1. Everybody's going to be expecting me to go after that person. But, like, what if that person makes a deal with me? Like, you could, like, use that second ability when it's coming around. Just after one turn in Commander, things can change so much. So after that first turn, when it comes back to you, I mean, you could be having conversations the whole time about who you're going to basically take out of the game.
If I were in the hot seat, let's say with this, and let's say Joel, you and me are playing against each other. We've got 2 other people there. Mm-hmm. You play this, right?
Yeah.
Unless I'm kind of sitting there with both a board wipe and enchantment removal, I'm assuming I'm either A, making a deal with you, or B, making a deal with something else for whatever half of that I have to say, hey, if you can remove the Saga, hey, because you kind of need to do both. And I think it's going to make a lot of the, and maybe not this card alone, but definitely the ones that take out multiple permanents, the removal board wipes, are going to be looked even better because of this card.
It's insane, dude. It is like we were saying earlier. It seems like every other day we would just like text each other back and forth like, "Holy cow! What about this?" One of those cards. It was like, "Holy cow! Holy cow!" Yep, Kiora, super powerful in this.
Kiora, she really beat the sea gods.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she kicked their asses. Ain't no more sea gods around.
She didn't even win. She just stole her stuff and then, ran out the plane with it.
It makes me wonder if in the next set they're going to bring Kiora back around in one of these next sets.
Well, they might be. I mean,
are we going to the oceans here soon?
Yeah. I mean, I have been thinking to myself, it then says it's for the oceans, but Ikoria sounds a little bit like
Ikoria sounds like a ocean. I don't know.
It's a monster world. I assume that means water beasts too.
Yeah. Well, we might see Kiora back around.
Speculation for another time. Number 2 for me is Athreos Shroud Veiled. This is the buy a box promo one. It's 4 white and black for a legendary enchantment creature god. Indestructible as long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7. Athreos isn't a creature. At the beginning of your end step, put a coin counter on another target creature. Whenever a creature with a coin counter on it dies or put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. It's a 4/7. So pretty much every turn, something can't go anywhere at any point and is sticking around.
Dude, I've only been playing Magic since War of the Spark. This is my favorite buy a box promo.
Yes.
You get an Athreos. I get an Athreos.
It's my favorite buy a box promo.
Everyone gets an Athreos.
This might have made me A, get the box, and B, definitely might get an extra one or two just to throw in some extra decks. Because, I mean, think about it. I mean, their only solution to do this as the opponent is to try to immediately remove it and remind you this is an indestructible, often just an enchantment, indestructible enchantment that prior to the end step will start making things invincible. And, it can't make itself invincible, which is how they tried to make this fair, but it goes on to another target creature. But still, any creature you throw it on, they can't remove it. If it goes away, it comes right back. And basically things that you're going to have to remove it twice in a row. You have to burn 2 removal spells, whether that's a board wipe and a single target remover, 2 boards wipe in a row, board wipes in a row. That's your only solution. It's just, it really makes it hard to deal with.
And what's insane about this card is, I love Orzhov. This god, at the beginning of the step, you put a coin counter on another target creature. So it could be your creature, it could be another person's creature. Because whenever this coin counter, if you have cards that you want to sack and bring back, you could be doing that. If you want to kill somebody else's and bring it back and take it away from them and return that card under your control, you're stealing things or you're doing it to yourself. Because in my Taser Orzhov deck, I like to sack my own things for my benefits. So there are cards you can utilize for yourself. There are cards you want to take from other people. It's nuts, the amount of power.
In a team game, this is fantastic. You can help your buddy up as well. I mean, you can use the politics with it too. I'm telling you.
This is a Commander buy a box promo.
This is a Commander. I mean, I could definitely see a deck being made. I have a place I want to put Athreos. If not, I might consider making it a Commander.
He'd be fun.
Yes.
He's insane. This is why everybody, going back to my number 5, needs a Shadow Spear in their in their deck, because you could deal with Indestructible.
Well, it'll help you take out the god, but it won't remove the
it won't remove the count. Yep. Well, yeah, it's nuts. Athreos. All right, my number two. This card is just, and I saw this card, and then I don't think I spoke to you about it right away, and then you were like, hey Joel, there's this card, and then I was like, I know what you're talking about, before you even said it. And then you said it, I'm like, yep. And that card is Nyx Lotus. For 4 generic, it's a legendary artifact. Nyx Lotus enters the battlefield tapped, and you tap Nyx Lotus, you choose a color, you add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. Now, Devotion's coming back, right, in this set.
Yes.
So, in Devotion, as I understand it, is those little color pips in the top right-hand corner of the card. So, not the color pips in the explanation or the verbiage, and it's not the lands with the large color pip in the middle. It is just up in the corner of your enchantments, of your permanents.
All your permanents, yeah.
But what's insane about this card to me is... it's 4 mana, right? So even if you just had 3 pips out there, it's basically a what's that card I'm thinking of now? Not Hedron Archive, but the other one.
Gilded Lotus?
No, Gilded Lotus is 5. There's one where it's 4 and you tap it for 3 colorless.
Thran Dynamo?
Thran Dynamo. It's a better Thran Dynamo. It's a Thran Dynamo with colored mana.
It is legitimately a better Thran Dynamo. It requires you have to have that devotion in play.
Yes.
So there's that slight downside. But yes.
So I think in monocolor decks, this is a must-add. Because I think in monocolor decks, you're going to have more than 3 pips. So you're going to have 4 or 5 at any given time. So you have a rock you paid 4 for that now you're going to tap for 4 or 5.
They tried to fix another card, which they did, which also was really, really good in Commander, and they attempt to fix with this. That card was Nykthos Shrine to Nyx.
Okay, yeah. And
it was a legendary land that could tap for 1 or 2 and tap it, and then you add mana equal to your devotion to a certain color. And same thing with monocolored decks. Every mono-color deck got instantly better because of that card. Whether you had the deck already or you built the deck with that in mind. It really was some powerful fixing, and this is just their attempt to fix it. I'm gonna be honest, it's still really powerful.
I think this is insane. I think it might be in a monocolored deck almost feels broken, because you're in mid game, in game, you're gonna have devotion at 6, 7, 8, 9. you have a rock that taps for that much mana.
In my experience, you kind of dance in devotion between 5 and 7 most games. Whether you're in front or behind, it's still tapping for 5 or 7.
5 or 7, a rock that taps for 5 or 7 that you only paid 4 for once?
Yes, I know.
Oh my god.
That's why it comes to the battlefield tap, Joel. Bounce.
You could even have untapped shenanigans going, but even then, it's just... Yeah, so worst case scenario, on turn 4, it comes in the field tap. On turn 5, you can use it. On turn 5, you probably have a few out. It's probably a 2-3 rock. And then by turn 6 or 7 or 8, you might be tapping this thing for 5, 6, 7, 8 mana.
Easily.
It's insane. And then that's the thing about this to me is there's exponential potential. So I like the way that's exponential potential. So you have a big field, right? Especially if you're playing like a crick or something where you got a lot of devotion. You got a bunch of devotion to one color, and you're tapping Nyx Lotus for like 10 mana, say. It's like 10 mana, and then you bring out you're bringing out more, and then the next time it's 13 or 14. Like, it's just going to keep growing as long as you can keep things on the battlefield. But it's pretty nuts.
I want to get my hands on as many Nyx Lotuses as I can while they're somewhat affordable, and I think it'll get to the point. I don't think so it'll be as bad as Nykthos, because that was land. I do think there will be a point where the price range gets more and more astronomical, assuming there's not a reprint.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to comment on how expensive it'll get.
I don't want to go that far to say how expensive it'll be. I do think it will get, the price will go up.
For sure.
It's not one of those ones I think is going to stabilize as much as just as sets get better, as things, especially aim more monocolored over time by just them printing things that are good in each color.
Yeah.
It'll get more desirable.
I think in the Throne of Eldraine, there are a bunch of those, like, there were those legendary creatures that were like 3 of their color it cost. So they were doing a lot more of the pips on that last set.
They did it to set this up,
This. So there's a lot of cards, but Nyx Lotus, man, that's my number 2. Thing's insane. Thing's great. If you got a monocolored, even a dual color deck, you got to put this thing in there. It's a valuable rock.
We ready for number 1?
Number 1. Let me find it for you.
So my number 1 is a card that I think can go almost in any blue deck you would like. And it instantly is playable, it's good, and what's really crazy, it's one of those cards that at its worst, it's still great. And if you build the deck within mind, or a deck that takes advantage of it, which most decks will, it gets stupid.
Yeah.
And that card is Nadir Kraken. It's 1 blue and a blue for a creature Kraken. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Nadir Kraken and create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. It's a 2/3. I didn't need that. It's kind of cool. It starts as a 2/3, but whenever you draw a card, so at the start of your turn, you can pay 1, gets +1/+1 counter. You get a 1/1 token. That's already great value.
Card draw and token.
You're already
and pumping.
It's a +1/+1 counter card, so it goes on all the +1/+1 counter decks. It helps you with when you draw. It gets the bonuses, and you're going to draw no matter what, and your decks need a certain amount of draw, so you get that. Then it makes tokens, so you always have that go wide backup. It's just great.
For 3 mana, it's already an incredible card.
Yes,
great card.
I think this is a great card at 4 or 5 mana too, and the fact it's at 3, whoa.
Yeah. And then I was looking at, and I was trying to ask you about these different combos you can use with it. Right?
Yes. So I thought you might go there. So again, Joel discovered combo decks this week, guys.
I discovered combinations.
He pointed out in me one, and I said, I did realize this one actually prior to you telling me about it. It's there's an infinite combo with it with Skull Clamp and Ashnod's Altar, which are very common commander cards.
Yes.
And it kind of goes to, I think there's a lot more than that. And there's a lot more that just give you surprise value, right? Like this exactly is the kind of card that just has so many synergies with things that just, I think you stick it in any deck you have blue in, see what happens. And I think it's going to be one of those cards that I can't come up with a blue deck in which this would not be at best like a decent card. It's always playable. And I think most decks is just going to be one of the best cards in the deck.
Yeah, it's it's just a great card. Like I don't see any downside on this card.
There is no downside.
Like you can have a deck that runs blue. You don't have very much blue in it, and you don't have anything blue you're doing, and it's still a good card.
2 more mana, I still think this is great. If it came in as a 1/1, I think that I would assume that what is going to be the case. I mean, you can just remove numbers as long as those 3 effects still happen. It's still great.
That is just nuts. Yeah, because you're drawing cards each turn. You're making the Kraken bigger, and you're making a bunch of tentacles. It's like you're spreading tentacles everywhere. It's just. There you go. This is number 1 for Alex. That is a great card.
It's a stupid card.
Yeah, and just because the combo, it's you draw a card, you pay 1. If you do put a 1/1 counter on that, your Kraken, create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token, right? And then you skull clamp the tentacle, and then in response, you use Astronaut's Altar to sacrifice the tentacle.
No, what it is the combo that I know of is you put it on the 1/1 you put the 1/1 token in play. You equip Skull Clamp to it. I believe you either do it in response or you sacrifice the next one that comes in play. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you can make 2 tokens off of it. I've seen the loop. I will say I'm having trouble recalling it, but I do remember that you just kind of go through it over and over and over again. And I might have take turns between the 2. I don't remember the specifics, but
yeah. Anyway, there's so many ways to abuse it.
It's scary.
So many ways to abuse the Kraken.
I'm not a combo player, guys. At home.
No.
I
Neither
really,
am I. That's why
I like finding surprise combos.
I'm trying to ask you questions to scare you some more. Like
I've only you did it, Joel. Every time.
Yeah, we don't play a lot of combos in our meta, but that
I like surprise combos. Like I know they have synergy. I like synergy. I really love synergy. That's why I play Commander. And then synergy will naturally lead to combos, but wherever we end up there, I just feel good about it.
Yeah. I do too. All right, that brings me to my number 1. My number 1, I think this is going to become made as with the Kraken. I think, like you said, it could be played in any deck. It's always valuable. This card, I think, will become. I don't think this card's not only always valuable, but I think it's going to become a staple eventually. It's just you're going to run it, just like you run a Cultivate, just like you run a Commander Sphere, whatever. Like it's just going to be a card you put in your deck. And that is a green card, of course. And it's Dryad of the Elision Grove for 2 and a green. It's an enchantment creature nymph. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. And it's a 2/4. So this thing is insane. You're going to ramp every turn if you have the card draw. So if you have the value in hand already, you're going to be dropping 2 lands per turn, which is going to ramp you quickly. And you're fixing your land. So all your lands are every basic land type. So you have all your colors. So it's like having an Explorer and a Chromatic Lantern in one card, basically. And it's so for 3 mana, you're putting out there this card that's just gonna basically allow you to ramp really fast and fix your mana real quick. So every 3-color, 4-color, 5-color Commander deck wants this card.
Completely.
They just want it
to a T.
Yeah, and at that cost, it's like, why don't you run it?
Any situation where you have green and you would like a Chromatic Lantern, I don't see why you also wouldn't want a Dryad as well. And then the fact that it's an Explorer on top of it, it gives you the value you wouldn't have.
Yeah, it's just insane. Dryad of the Elision Grove, I don't like the artwork very much. It's a little bit creepy. The guy's staring at me in a very odd way.
He's very green, Joel.
Very green. Looks like he's a part of the tree. But the card itself is insane. Yeah, it's nuts. I think it's a staple. I think it's in my opinion, it's my number 1. It's my favorite card of the set. Again, we're just picking our top 5 favorite cards of the set for Commander, for this game we love. Dryad of the Elision Grove. Ramp up and fix your mana. I mean, and that's where you get all your value, especially in Commander. In any game of Magic, but especially Commander. All right. So should we talk about our sleepers?
Let's do our sleepers. So me and Joel here at the Commander's Journey like to do sleeper picks. And that's the pick that we think is going to go a little under the radar in the beginning, and maybe over time will show its weight or be surprisingly good, or, you know, sometimes it'll just be right after we record this and then turn out to be great. I feel like that happened a little bit, so let's just do it again. My pick for this is an interesting one. It's an uncommon, in fact, and that's why I think it's going to be a little under the radar. Furious Rise is 2 and a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Furious Rise. So that's card advantage in red, Joel. Just flat out, Boros needs it, mono red needs it, and the only thing it asks of you is to have a creature power 4 or greater, which I want in every color, not only red, but especially in red.
It's always hard to get card draw in red, right? So this is keeping that extra card, like you said, like playing with the top of your library, like over and over again, even though it's exiled. Which I like. It's kind of in flavor. It's like, we're not going to do exactly what green does. It says play off the top of your library. We're going to be like, exile that card, and you can play it. And until you play it, then you can play the next one. I feel like it's very flavorful, but it's helping red.
And there's 2 big things I want to point out here, too. One, I mean, you do have the downside, too, where you do have to play it, or eventually it will go away by your next turn. But that's not a big ask.
No, it doesn't go away your next turn, though. It goes away until you exile another card.
Yeah, which will happen at the beginning of your next end step. So you have until your next one. Right. But the one thing that's nice about triggering at the beginning of all the end steps, let's say your friend over there board wipes. It's not the beginning of upkeep. You won't miss the trigger because, you know, so-and-so board wiped. You will have your turn to play another creature if you need that trigger. Yeah. So then you have time to play the trigger, get the extra card, get that extra value, and play it on the next turn after that to recover. I mean, if I'm playing mono red, I can promise you I will put a Furious Rise in my deck. That's for sure.
That is nuts. I think it's a really good card. And, yeah, hopefully it doesn't get overlooked too much. I think most, like you said, most decks that run red are going to want to have that card in it. It's very helpful. Okay, my sleeper pick. I personally think my sleeper pick is the Josh Lee Kwai pick.
I 100% agree with you.
This card is extremely good, and I thought about it in a few different scenarios. Of course, I'm referring to Josh Lee Kwai of the Command Zone, who loves to play Vidalcanori, loves card draw, loves all those things that give you value while you're playing a game. So this card is Wavebrake Hippocamp. For 2 and a blue, it's an enchantment creature, Horsefish. So whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. And it's a 2/2. So what's insane about this is I have a deck where I have a Leyline of Anticipation in it, which is basically a Vidalcanori. It allows you to cast things and do things on other people's turns. So if you're casting things and doing things on somebody else's turn, you're also getting card draw now in addition. Plus, any deck that's built around just slinging spells, or a control deck where you're doing things, every time you cancel somebody or you counter something, you're also getting a card.
I mean, counterspell decks, whenever you're playing your deck as a more reactionary deck, which blue wants to do most of the time anyways.
It does.
Or again, you're playing things at flash speed like Vidalcanori or Leyline allows you to. Mm-hmm. This gets that value.
That's why I call it the Josh Lee Kwai special. But this card I think people might not look at it right away, but especially people who like to play more control, or people who do like to play Vidalcanori, or like to get things out on other people's turns. Plus, there's people run a lot of instants and responses, and there's a lot of flash enchantments in this. So in this set in particular, so all those things are going to give you extra value in card draw. Repeatable card draw is a very good thing in Commander. So if you have a deck that has, I would say, anywhere from like a handful to a dozen or more of things where you do them at instant speed, this you should have as one of your card draw spells if you're running blue. It's just, I think it's really good. It might be a little, it's kind of like my sleeper, but I don't know how much of a sleeper it really is. I'm kind of like skating on the rail. I think some people realize it's really good.
I think what'll end up happening with this card, it'll fall into an interesting camp where it'll become a more, depending on, this depends on how Standard ends up using in other formats, but may end up being more of a budget pick that really provides you very good draw cards, card draw on a budget that will help, keep the deck powerfully in check, but also as you do things at instant speed, getting that card draw value off of it.
Yeah, I don't know how storm decks really work, but I mean, in all those different types of instances, this card is going to have a lot of value, I think.
If it said for each card you play during your opponent's turn, and it's a storm, I would surrender on sight.
That's your first spell, and so it's not, but
it's still great. No, I would totally. If I was playing a storm equivalent or really any spell slinger deck where I'm playing stuff on other people's turns, I definitely want to have this card.
And also, to me, the last thing about this card that's fun is, like, a lot of times when you're waiting for things to come back around to you, because a commander could take a while, and you're waiting for 3 players to play. That's why you run things you can interact. Excuse me, you want to be able to interact with people. So having this is really awesome. You have that on your board, and you're able to interact, and you're getting card draw while people are doing their things. It's a fun feeling.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay, guys. Well, that's our top 5 favorite cards from, I want to say...
Theros Beyond Broken.
Theros, I was going to say Broken, Theros, Nyx, all the above. I was really going to go in there, but yes, Theros Beyond Broken. Theros
Beyond Death is what they're called, but we're calling it Theros Beyond Broken. It's just insane.
It's a great set.
It's fun.
They told us they were going to put the power level on there. Boy, did they.
Yeah, this really is. So thank you guys for listening. Check us out and subscribe. Thanks for coming. We'll hope to talk to you next time.
See you.